My name is Abdullah Azmi bin Baharuddin. Baharuddin is a great man. He's my role model, and I look up to him every single day. He's the place where I ask questions, and he's the place where I refer to when I'm at my deep and darkest moments in my life. He's always been there. He's been the figure which supports my success and makes me strive for the future. He always pushes me to grow further, and all of his efforts are put into me and my family. So this is why I love him, and he's my father. But I always wondered why he's such a great character, why he's such a great person to me, even though that he doesn't have that much accolades, he doesn't have all those magnificent achievements, he doesn't have the position in any company or in any organization, but he's still considered the best to me. So today, I'll be talking about my father, Baharuddin bin Man. So let me tell you his childhood and what he has gone through until this point. Luckily today, he's still with me and he's continuing to help me get through my life in these teenage years. So let's look at his teenage years. He was born by the second wife of his father, which is bin Man. For your information, my grandfather wasn't a nice guy. He was a criminal, and he had many divorces. This means my father was born in a family which had nothing, absolutely nothing. His father had a criminal record, he didn't even know his mother, and at the age of 4, his parents left him. He was forced to live with his grandmother, which I know to this day. And my grandmother right now is and his grandmother was a Chinese person, and he was brought up in that situation without knowing his parents, without having a Malay background, without being taught the moral values that each children should be taught. And what's worse is that he was poor. He was born in a life of poverty, and he had no chance of breaking that cycle. When he was born, he lived in his childhood years, he lived in a hut, and that hut was nothing, but that was his home, and he had to live through it. He told me stories about his old home, where he had to plaster and seal the ceiling and the doors because of heavy rain. And certain times, he had to sleep on the table because his house was flooded by sewage and water. But how did he get through that? Well, you might wonder that maybe he got education and he might get a good job and actually succeed in his life. But no, it was still bad, because he didn't even finish high school. He didn't even get any form of formal education, which all of us have the privilege to gain this benefit. Well, if you don't know, I believe that education is the most powerful tool for someone to break that poverty cycle. And he was denied of the opportunity. He was denied of the right to further his education because his parents forced him to do so. When he graduated from elementary school, he was forced to stop pursuing his education because of his father. He said it was too much to pay, and you have no worth in this world anyway. So you better help out me and and the siblings to maintain and organize the local food stall, which was selling char kway teow and mee goreng. So my father helped his grandmother sell char kway teow and nasi lemak every day for the whole of his high school years. He had to push the cart for 2 kilometers to go to the selling ground, to go to the supermarket, so he could sell his products. And he also told me that one day, this unfortunate day, where it was raining very heavily, and the wind was so fast, it knocked down the whole stall, and all of his belongings, his property, were destroyed in that situation. But he overcome that problem. He used his savings and bought a new stall, and tried to actually save a portion of his money in order for his further education, because he still realized that there might be a chance, and he didn't give up. He fought for that hope, and he wanted to achieve his goal, to at least be a middle income man in society. So in Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur is regarded as the land of opportunity. So in this situation, he took the risk, and he was brave enough to leave his family in Perak and move to Kuala Lumpur, which wasn't that easy. He took a bus and all of his savings to move to Kuala Lumpur. So his first job was trying to be a clerk in any restaurant, or maybe a labourer in a cleaning facility. But he was rejected because he was from kampung and from the slums, and he was regarded as a kampung boy. So no one wanted him to work in the city. But he didn't give up. He continued to pursue a job, and he found that job as a postman. He worked in Underpost Malaysia as a delivery guy. He sent mail from house to house, and he also rented a house in Lembah Kramat. So what did he do for the next 20 years as a postman? He worked day and night. He took multiple jobs other than being a postman. He became a street vendor. He became a waiter in a restaurant. He worked day and night in order to sustain himself. For your information, he wasn't married at that point, and he had no he wasn't responsible of anyone at that moment. He didn't have any children, and then those efforts were only for himself. Well, you could believe that he started from nothing, and when he started from nothing, this is the type of effort that you have to go through, and to overcome this, to break the cycle of poverty. So after 20 years of service under Post Malaysia, he was finally promoted to become a manager in the headquarters. So that's when life became turned around for him. The thing is that he didn't give up, and he pursued his dreams of becoming wealthy. And to this day, he continued to pursue his job as a manager in Post Malaysia. So he had savings, and at the age of 33, he was finally able to rent a better home, because at that moment he was married with a lovely lady called Fataya, which they met in Langkawi. So these two people were not decent. They didn't have money. They were financially capable of sustaining their lives in this big city. So they both worked together. My mother had to go from Kuala Lumpur to Kedah every week in order to become a lecturer and pursue that degree. And at that moment, they had two children. My eldest, Firdaus, and my second sibling, who is called Alia. So they had to take care of them and also had to take care of themselves. So this is when they had the opportunity to break that cycle. My mother finally finished her degree and finally found a job as a lecturer in Pulau Pinang. So my father couldn't sacrifice his job to move to Pulau Pinang. He had to stay Kuala Lumpur. And for 3 years, he had to suffer alone in Kuala Lumpur, being distant, being apart from his wife and his children. As a man, he couldn't take much being alone. And at that moment, he was also forced to rent another home for himself. So he lived in another home which was shared with other people from different backgrounds and different from different racial backgrounds. So he shared a room with a Christian, he shared a room with an Indian, with a Chinese, a Jewish, and someone who does not have any formal religion in that room. It was horrible, he said. There were drugs, there were alcohol, there were girls in the house. But my father said no. He had his morals and he had his virtues to uphold. So he didn't go and join these men, which could have brought him to his demise. But he stayed true to himself, he held on his principles and focused on working. After all of those hard work, he finally had money. He bought his first car, which was just a modest Kancil Proton, Kancil Pro 2. And he used that car day and night to go back and forth for his work. At the age of 38, he finally moved to Seremban. And that's when it gets better. His children finally got the education that they needed, because he realized that I don't want my children to suffer the things that I have gone through, and I don't want them to experience all the bad things that I have gone through. So this is what's amazing to me. After being exposed to everything that could have gone bad in this world, he was able to push that aside and actually be a useful person, a successful person in society. Now, he has 5 siblings. One's an engineer, one's a renowned chef, one works at a bank, and one is studying in Canada, and one is studying in Sungai Gadun. So, to me, even though right now he's not as successful as you could have imagined, he's not a CEO of a successful company, he's not holding any position in any big organization, but he's someone who's successful in educating, in creating, in shaping children who could be major contributors of the future. So this is the lesson here. Never give up. If you give up and you follow follow the temptations, you follow your instinct to be safe and not take risks, then you will never progress in life. You have to take risks. You have to go out of your comfort zone and strive for something better for the future. Because you have the responsibility to create a generation which will uphold this nation that we love so much. This man has gone through everything everything imaginable, and your problem is nothing to him. If he can do it, then you can too. This is my call to action. You have to realize that in this situation, you already have every building block possible for you to achieve success. And if you if you neglect your responsibility and you neglect all of your privileges, I'm very ashamed of you. I hope everyone here is inspired and actually realize that how much of a responsibility that you hold right now, how much power you have right now. Because imagine in the future where you have children and you are not able to give them the things that they want or the things that they actually need. How could you look as a parent? How would society look to you as a father? And this is when we have to realize that everyone has a responsibility and we all have the power to change the world. Thank you.